Hello everybody, and welcome to a Genshin Impact tier list video. I've never done one of these before, but I'm really excited. I think these videos are really fun, especially when they're not like tier list, like typical tier lists, like ranking characters and how strong they are as units. But I really like Genshin lore, so I'm gonna do a tier list about like power scaling, like how powerful these characters are, not as units in the game, but as like characters in the story. I think this is going to be pretty interesting, and maybe I'll have some like hot takes along the way. If anyone else is like into the lore stuff, I'm not like as into it as I could be, but I definitely do enjoy peeking into some of the lore stuff in Genshin because it's really cool. So we're just going to get started because there's a shit ton of characters in this game at this point. So let's get started. These are the categories I came up with. We've got super godly for anything that's like, this is crazy. There's only going to be like one character in here and I know who it is already. Godly is like Archon level. You know, like these are like, I don't literally mean godly. I just mean like these are like the strongest of the strong, you know. Very strong is for people who are probably a little bit in between human strength and like crazy strength. Above average is for like the most talented humans. Just a guy is for anybody that's just a guy or a gal. They're just like, they're people. They're just regular people. And then actually weak are for characters that are people usually, but they're like not even fighters. There's no reason these characters should be like in a game that's focused on combat because they wouldn't be fighting in reality. But let's get started. There's a lot of characters in this game. Let's go. Our first is Kirara. Okay, well, Kirara is technically like a yokai or whatever, so she's technically like more than human. However, I don't think that her in-game strength really reflects that. I don't think that her yokai-ness gives her any sort of special ability, so I am just going to put her in just a guy. I would love to see if she is more powerful, but we haven't gotten a lot of her yet since she's pretty new. For Ito, okay, this one's interesting. So again, he is an Oni, so he is like a yokai, so he is not human. I have some personal hot takes about Ito as a character, where I actually think that Ito in lore is not super strong and he's not super buff like a lot of people want him to be, but I can talk about that later or in another video because I could do like a whole like hour spiel on Ito's character. I think it's really interesting, but I'm still going to put him in above average because he's a leader of a gang. He's got the big club. In his demo, which I believe the demos are canon, we like see him fighting and stuff. So like he does fight. We do know that. Next is Ayaka. This one's pretty easy. I'm gonna put this in above average as well. She's a swordswoman and she's very trained at that. So I think it makes sense. I'm not gonna be ranking the characters within the tiers themselves because that's gonna take me forever. But I would probably put Ayaka above Ito if I did. Charlotte, I'm going to put Charlotte in actually weak. I really like Charlotte. By the way, you should go watch my Wishing for Farina video that I posted a couple videos back because I got crazy lucky with my Charlotte summons. And it's really fun to watch and you should go watch it. But I am going to put her in actually weak because she's just a journalist. Like there's no reason she would actually be fighting if Genshin was real. Her normal attacks are like her taking pictures, right? Like they're like she's not a fighter, and that's fine. We still love her. By the way, speaking of my previous videos, I don't usually like doing this, but I just started this channel out. If you guys are liking what you're seeing, feel free to drop a like, maybe even a subscribe. We'll see where this channel goes. Currently there's some Genshin content and some Chants of Sonar content, but there will be a lot more variety coming. I'm trying to decide what the next series I'm going to do is after Chants of Sonar, and I think it's going to be Outer Wilds. So if you're into that idea, stick around. Anyway, the next is Kujo Sara. I'm putting her in above average as well because she is just a human. Well, she's actually still a yokai as well because she's a Tengu, but she is like the general of an army, which means that she probably has more combat prowess than just a regular person does. Okay, Yoimiya, one of my favorite characters in the game. Personally, one of my mains. Unfortunately, I am probably going to put Yoimiya. Ooh, this one's difficult. I'm going to put her in just a guy. And here's my reasoning. I could put her in actually weak, but Yoimiya's normal attack sequence does show a lot of like well-trained discipline. Her normal attacks evoke a very particular style of Japanese archery, which takes a lot of practice to do. So like she does definitely have combat prowess. And without those normal attack animations, I would probably put her in actually weak, because there's no real reason that a fireworks engineer, or whatever you want to call her, would be super strong, but she is shown to be well trained in combat. So I'm actually a really big Horizon fan, so I know a lot about Aloy. So I'm going to put her in above average as well, just based off of how she is in those games, but I'm not going to linger on it too much because why would I? No one cares. I'm putting Sucrose in actually weak, unfortunately. I really like Sucrose, but realistically, she wouldn't be into the combat at all. Okay, we're putting Xiao into very strong. He's going to be our very first very strong. I think this one makes sense. He spent thousands of years in a war, slaughtering people. He is an Adepti. He's the protector of Liyue. Like, there's no reason he would be. There's no reason he wouldn't be at this tier. He's not godly. He's not on the level of like the strongest characters in the game, but he's definitely a step above the rest. Kaya's also going into above average. He is technically the cavalry captain, so he's not really focused on combat itself. But I'd like to imagine that the captains of the Knights of Favonius do still have mandatory combat training. It wouldn't really make sense otherwise. So yeah, Diona's going in actually weak because she's a bartender and a child, and that's that. She throws cocktails at people, right? Like, that's not going to do much realistically. Sino, I'm going to put it very strong as well. And here's my reasoning. Yes, he probably could go in just above average because he is just the general, or he's not a general, he's the General Mahamatra. So he's like top cop, basically, of the academia. However, he's got the Hermanubis thing going on, that like electro spirit within him. He's got that dog in him, basically. And that definitely makes him stronger than the other characters in above average, because he's got literal, like, god powers. You know? Fischl is interesting. I am gonna put Fischl in actually weak. Again, this is one of those situations where, like, oh wait, she's an adventurer though. Okay, I'm gonna put her in just a guy because she's an adventurer, so I feel like she would probably have to be able to carry herself in a fight at least a little bit, at least against like a slime or something. But I could also see her being an actually weak. Okay, next is Toma. Toma's probably going to go in actually weak as well. There's really no reason that he should be strong, given his story and given his place in Inazuma and whatever. He's just a housewife, basically. His normal attacks do show a good amount of proficiency with the spear, but most characters show proficiency. I mainly mentioned it about Yuimiya just because she like uses a very specific type of bow or archery. And yeah, that's basically it. For Alhaitham, the feeble scholar, well, he's so feeble, so obviously he's going to go into actually weak, right? I'm just kidding. I'm actually going to put him in just a guy. Technically, Alhaitham is like one of the best DPSs in the game, and he does show a lot of martial prowess in that one cutscene where he fights Sino, and he dual wields his swords, so he obviously like knows what's up when it comes to combat. But I have trouble putting him in above average just because I don't think he would want to fight. You know, I don't think he ever wants to fight. His whole thing is him being like lazy. I love to make fun of Alhaitham. I love him endearingly, but I also hate him, you know, he's one of those characters. Baizhu is up next, and by proxy, Changsheng, and they're going to go in actually weak. This is definitely one of those characters that's like, realistically, if Genshin were in a game about combat, I don't think he would be fighting at all, because he's a doctor. Anyway. Faruzan, also actually weak. She's a professor. You could argue maybe she learned some stuff while she was like locked away for 100 years, but I don't think that's true. Dia's gonna go in above average. She's a merc. Of course she's gonna go here. One of my favorite characters in the game. Love you, Dia. Next we have Mika. Mika is gonna go in actually weak. Again, technically he does work for the Knights of Favonius, and as I said before, I think they probably do require some level of combat proficiency. However, we can explicitly see in his normal attacks that he's not very comfortable using the weapons that he does use, and he's just a cartographer. So I don't even want to put him in just a guy. I think he's fine here. Dory, I'm also going to put... Oh, well, she has the Ginny, though. Is the Ginny... But I don't think the Ginny's, like, combat-oriented. I'm going to put her down here. Also, fuck Dory. Keqing, we're going to put in just a guy. Keqing is the Yuheng of the Qixing. So she's like a business person, basically, I think. But, yeah, that's it. Probably I could put her in actually weak for lore reasons. But... I don't know, something about her. She just is very stern. I feel like she would be into combat training and stuff just because of her personality. She seems like a very independent person. Wriothesley we're going to put into above average. His demo, he wins against like the toughest opponent in the Pancration Ring in Maripede. He has giant metal gauntlets. That's going to leave a mark. So we'll put him in above average. Kale, actually weak, obviously. She's just kind of a kid who's learning to read. She's not got a lot going on, but I love her, so it doesn't matter. Beidou, definitely above average. Actually, I'm going to put Beidou in very strong, you know? This is my first hot take. Yes, Beidou is just a regular human. However, she managed to fell Haishan, a like ocean dragon, without her vision. That's crazy. I don't think most of the characters in the game could do that with a vision, and she did it without a vision. Yeah, she's definitely very above average. Child is next. This is an interesting one. This might also be a bit of a hot take. I might get some people mad at me for this, but I'm going to put him in Godly. Especially after the recent Archon quest. No explicit spoilers, but we do know that stuff that originates from the Abyss is pretty damn strong. And we also know that the lineage of Child's teachings that taught him how to use Foul Legacy is particularly notable. I really think that Child is incredibly strong. And to do slightly more spoilers, we also know that Child was fighting the all-devouring narwhal in the Abyss for something like 45 to 50 days straight, which is crazy, especially when you consider just how bad Foul Legacy is for his health. Like, he really, really gets negatively affected by using Foul Legacy, and yet he was fighting for like 45 days. I really think it's fair to say that he's godly strong. Noelle. I'm going to put Noelle in just a guy. I think if she ever gets her role as captain, or she ever joins the Knights of Avonius, she could definitely be higher. She definitely gives me the vibes of like, she trains herself so that she can have that combat experience that would help her become a knight. But until she becomes a knight, she probably doesn't have quite the resources she needs to be really powerful. But she's getting there. I believe in you, girl. Kaveh, weak. Sorry. I love Kaveh and I love making fun of him. Yeah, there's no reason. I mean, he can't even carry a claymore around. This might be one of the weakest characters in the game, and I say that in a loving way. Rosaria is just a guy. She's just a human. No real reason to have any major combat strength. However, she's edgy. You know, she's edgy. I bet, you know, also wasn't she like abducted by treasure hoarders when she was a child? And like, did she break out of that herself or was she rescued? I don't really remember. Okay, next is the Traveler. This one's an interesting one. I'm actually going to put the Traveler in Supra Godly. Am I? Or am I? No, I'm going to put the Traveler in Godly for now. They will be in Supra Godly towards the end of the Archon quests. And you could even argue that they are already. In fact, I'm really tempted to put them up there. But in addition to fighting the Scaramouche boss, which is a god, we have now helped fighting the all-devouring narwhal. We also, with help, admittedly, held back the Raiden Shogun. I think it's pretty clear at this point that the Traveler is meant to be a pretty typical anime protagonist, and they're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So I think it's not really a hot take to put them in Godly. I would even say you could probably put them in Super Godly, but for now we'll just keep them there because there's always room to improve with a main character, you know? I'm putting Chongyun at just a guy. Chongyun is one of my favorite characters. he does do a lot of training with his exorcism stuff, but he never actually gets to put any of that training into practice because his exorcism because he never actually gets to exercise anything because all the spirits just leave when he gets there. His normal attacks also do hint at a little bit of lack of proficiency with the claymore. And ultimately, like, he's still in training, and exorcism in and of itself, as it appears in Genshin, doesn't seem to require a lot of actual combat as much as it has to do with, like, you know, it's more of a spiritual thing. Eula, obviously going in above average. She's, technically she's like reconnaissance captain, so she's like the spy captain, which maybe doesn't feel like it requires as much combat experience as like a different kind of captain, but I think it's fair to say that she is pretty capable even with that in mind, especially when you take a look at her normal attack sequence and she's like waving that claymore around like it weighs nothing. Like, this is a strong ass woman we're talking about. Goro, I'm gonna this one's hard. He's a general, so I want to put him in above average with like Sarah, but at the same time, do we ever see him doing anything all that impressive? Actually, I'll put him in above average, I guess, because he is a general. We do see him like jump around and take down a few enemies during that one Inazuma cutscene. And I think it's fair to say that as a general, he would have more combat experience and training than a regular person. Sayu, I'm going to put Sayu in above average, I guess. She's a member of the Shumatsuban, who are highly trained by Ayato, but she's also lazy, so maybe I'll put her in just a guy because she probably doesn't want to fight a lot. She's also really small. Again, her normal attacks do hint at her being pretty not as proficient with the claymore. It seems to really weigh her down. So she's more about like infiltration than she is about combat, so I think it's fair to put her in just a guy. Nahida, this one's interesting. I'm actually tempted to put her in very strong because as a 500-year-old Archon, I don't think that she's all that strong in the lore. I think that she's probably one of the weaker Archons that we know of right now, of the, okay, technically 4 that we know. But she is an Archon, so I'll put her in Godly. She does help take down, I think that like Nahida's strength is not combat oriented specifically, but rather more about her like cleverness. The way that she takes down the Scaramouche boss is very clever. She's not doing any like outright combat against it, but she is using her abilities to outwit Scaramouche in that moment. I don't really think that counts for what we're doing, but I'm gonna make it count because that's how I feel. Okay, looks like we're about halfway through with these characters-ish, so let's keep going. Klee, above average, I think it makes sense. Klee is said to have completely, like, remodeled Mondstadt's terrain with her explosions, so I think it's fair to say that she's cooking some pretty strong stuff in her bag. Even if her, like, as a person might not be the strongest individual, her capabilities as an exploding technician or whatever you want to call it is pretty big. Ningguang I'm going to put in very strong. This one might be a bit of a hot take, but I do, like, every time I watch the Liyue Final Archon Quest cutscene and the Liyue Interlude Quest where we fight Beisht or whatever it is, Osial's wife, I look at what she's doing with her vision and I just can't help but feel that this lady is crazy strong and that no one talks about it. Like, she might have some of the most impressive feats as a vision holder in the game. Normally I would put Yunjin in actually weak, but in her demo she says that she trains her polearm proficiency for stage combat and that she believes that she could put up quite a fight. So I'm going to put her in just a guy. Razor, I'm going to put in above average, just because I think that he would be kind of willing to do anything. He would like fight dirty. Also, he's got that like spirit wolf thing. I don't even know if we know what that is in the lore, do we? But like that thing is pretty formidable, I think, so I'm going to put him there. Tignari, as far as lore goes, I'm going to put in actually weak. There's not a huge reason as to why. I just feel like he doesn't showcase any real combat in any of his scenes. And also he's like a biologist, you know? I'm going to put Ayato in above average. He says himself that he doesn't keep the Shumatsuban for trivial matters such as dealing with assassins, which means that he has been able to individually take care of every single assassin sent against him, which, from what we can tell, is many. He also, again, is the leader of the Shumatsuban and a very trained swordsman, so I don't think it's weird to put him here. Layla will put in actually weak. I don't know a huge amount about her sleepwalking counterpart. I think we've only seen it like once in that one event. So I don't know if that sleepwalking counterpart is like more proficient with the sword than her, but her normal attack sequence shows that she's very uncomfortable using the sword. She doesn't really know what she's doing. And also she's like a college student. Like there's no reason for her to be particularly strong. Albedo's a really interesting one to rank, because realistically I could put him in just a guy, because he is just a guy. He's just an alchemist. Like there's no real reason for him to be all that strong. However, him being a homunculus, his extreme proficiency with alchemy, you can literally see him like transforming life in his demo. I'm going to put him in very strong. I think he's another character that's similar to Klee, where maybe his combat proficiency in particular is not that strong, but his abilities outside of that compensate for it. Okay, Nilou is next. I'm going to put Nilou in actually weak. She's a dancer. She's very, not lighthearted, but she's very soft-spoken. She doesn't really seem like she would be into any combat at all, whether or not she was proficient with it. And her normal attacks seem more like she's holding a sword while dancing as opposed to doing any sort of real combat. So I think it's fair to say that she would not be as strong as the other characters. Candace, on the other hand, I'm probably going to put in above average. I think above average is sort of shaping up to be the tier of regular people with combat training, basically. And I think that Candace falls into that tier. She is a regular person. She's got nothing super special going on, although she can, I guess, see the future, which would help in combat, theoretically. Kind of like a, is it Heimdall from God of War Ragnarok? Yeah, it is Heimdall from God of War Ragnarok. You know, how he's like unbeatable because he can always see what you're about to do. But I don't think that's how her abilities manifest necessarily. But we can see she throws that spear like 100 meters in Dia's demo, which is pretty crazy. And she's also like the protector of Aru village, so she has to have some combat experience. Okay, Scaramouche. I'm putting Scaramouche in very strong or godly. He was godly. He was literally a god at one point, so I could put him here. I think his puppetness does help him, but I don't know if he would be in very strong or in godly, to be honest. This one's really tough. Okay, I think for now I'm going to put him in godly, but I'm going to reassess at the end and see if I still agree with that once we fill out everybody else, and we can compare him to the other people that are in that category. Next is Venti, Barbados, our Animo Archon. He's going in godly, obviously. Venti claims that he is the weakest Archon amongst the 7, but I don't believe him. Those who know about Genshin lore and stuff will also know that Venti is incredibly suspicious, and a lot of the things that he says are not the most convincing. It's not incredibly clear to us currently how Archons gain their power. If it's purely to do with the fact that they are Archons with their possession of a Gnosis, which is probably not the case because multiple Archons have gone without their Gnoses now and seem just as powerful as they were before. Or, as Venti, I believe, claims, Archons gain their abilities from the amount that they are worshipped. In that case, it doesn't make sense for Venti to be the weakest amongst the 7 because he is arguably the most worshipped within his nation. Maybe it has something to do with his slumber, or maybe he's lying because he's a suspicious little brat. But anyway, he's definitely godly. He's literally an Archon. And I actually think he's one of the more powerful of the 7. but that's based off of nothing but like assumptions, based off of like how suspicious he is. Fremine, I was originally going to put him in Just a Guy, and then I realized he's like an assassin he's like literally an assassin, right? So he's a going and above average. I think that's fair to say. The Raiden Shogun, obviously ungodly. I think Raiden is probably the strongest. She's probably the second strongest after Morax, I would imagine. Or maybe she would be the strongest. I don't know. Morax was called like the god of war at one point because of how strong he was. But I guess it's up in the air as to whether Zhongli has kept that strength going throughout the 7,000 years of his life. Yelan, I'm actually going to put in Just a Guy. Now, let me explain myself. Yes, she is like a spy. Yes, she does have to be able to hold herself in a fight. But one aspect of Yelan's character that I feel like a lot of people forget is that she is similar to Baizhu, chronically ill, I believe. She has like an illness that keeps her from being able to exert herself that much. But yeah, I think in canon, Yelan is very cunning. She's very intelligent, and she sort of knows how to get what she wants, but she doesn't need to rely on her strength as a combatant. And I think part of the reason for that is because she exerts herself really quickly because of that condition she has. Chi-Chi is next, and I know that she's a Jiangshi, and I don't know exactly what that means for her power level. I know that she's, resurrected, a zombie, as the English dub calls it. Does that mean that she can't die? Does that mean, I don't know. We just never seen her do anything impressive in game, so I have to assume that she's basically just a regular child, and on top of that, she's incredibly forgetful, which never helps. Mona is also going in actually weak, in sort of a spiritual way. She's probably extremely strong because she can tell your future, but realistically, I don't think she's going to be doing a huge amount in combat. Ganyu. I can't remember any part of Ganyu's storylines or dialogue or cutscenes or anything that implies that she would be strong in any way. She does hold the front line with Keqing in the Liwa interlude, so maybe she's strong. I guess I'll put her in the same category as I put Keqing, just because they both are there leading, but then again they're also just standing on an island in front of some cannons. They don't actually do a lot of fighting, so I don't know. There's no reason for me to put Ganyu lower than Keqing because they basically do the same thing. So I'll just put her there for now. Heizo, I'm gonna put him in Just a Guy. He himself says that the people who rely on combat are like losers, and he thinks that it's better to not rely on combat to get what you want. Yes, he punches the shit out of people, but I don't think that makes him particularly stronger than any other character. Amber, I'm gonna put Amber in weak. As an outrider, I don't think she has a lot of combat ability. Yanfei will go in Just a Guy. Yes, she is half Adeptus, and yes, that theoretically means that she could be pretty strong, but she's also just a lawyer. She doesn't really show any combat prowess at all. In fact, her normal attack animations are her playing volleyball. So maybe she kicks ass at volleyball, but probably not combat. I guess I have to put the Lynette or the Linny siblings all together because they all do the same sort of thing for the House of the Hearth. But also, I don't know if Linny and Lynette are explicitly assassins the way Fremine is. So maybe I'll put them under, actually. I don't know. I'm going to put them with Fremine. I'm just going to assume they all fulfill a similar role. But I actually don't think that that's true. Okay. Our next character is Nuviet. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said that I made the category of super godly for one character in particular? Obviously, that one character is the only playable sovereign in the game. It is, according to lore, right, the sovereigns or the dragons, the elemental dragons, were in Teyvat before the first Descender, the Primordial One or whatever came, and they held back the forces of Celestia for, I think, 100 years or more before ultimately losing and getting their power stripped from them. The power that they got stripped from them is the power that is given to Archons. So if you it's like a math equation, right? A plus B equals C, where C is a sovereign strength and A is an Archon strength, and then B is whatever they have left over. So they literally have to have more strength than an Archon, you know? Plus they're sovereigns. Like, this is a big deal, right? I really hope we get more playable sovereigns in the future because it's cool to see them in game, and it's cool that we have one that has regained his full authority over the Hydro element. It means that he is undoubtedly the most powerful character amongst the playable cast in lore, I think. Maybe some people will disagree with that, but I really don't think that you can make the argument that he's less powerful than the Archons is. I guess you can make the argument that the Traveler would be up there with him, but I haven't fully decided yet. Next is Kokomi, or Kokomi. I've never fully known how to say it. I feel like everyone says it differently. Someone go in the comments and tell me how to say it properly, please. I'm gonna put her in just a guy. She is a military strategist, so she's not a general necessarily. She's not combative. We don't ever see her fight, and that's about it. I just can't really think of any reason why she would be stronger. She's very capable as a strategist, but like as a combatant herself, I don't think that there's any hints in game as to why she would be particularly strong. Linny I'm going to put with the rest of his siblings. Again, I think Lynette and Linny could probably go in just a guy, and in fact, I'm just going to do it. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep them there, because someone's going to get mad at me. I know that Fremine is specifically said to be like an assassin. That's why he has the helmet. He puts it on when he kills people, so he doesn't have to face what he's done. But I don't know if Linny or Lynette have ever explicitly been referred to that way, which makes me think they're lower. I know that Linny is basically being set up as Arlecchino's heir, basically, to the House of the Hearth, so I don't know if his role is more like bureaucratic or diplomatic in nature, and I'm not entirely sure what Lynette does in the grand scheme of the House of the Hearth. Jean, I'm going to put Jean in above average. She's the leader of the night, or she's the acting Grandmaster of the Knights of Favonius, so it makes sense. So theoretically she's right below Varka, and I really don't imagine that someone so high up on the Favonius ladder would not have extensive combat experience and knowledge, you know. Bennett we're going to put in actually weak, which is incredibly ironic considering how fucking strong he is in game as a unit. But in addition to his horrible luck, which would probably leave him constantly beat up and injured, he's just a guy. And at that, he's got the bad luck on top of that. I love Bennett, but yeah, he's not strong. Yai Miko, the 500-year-old, what is she, like a kitsune? She's going in very strong. She's, you know, something a little more than human. I'm actually failing to recall any canon material where she is depicted as being particularly strong, to be honest. Yeah, is she a very strong, or would she just be above average? Or would she just be just a guy? Honestly, I don't really know. We do know that she can exorcise evil spirits because of her demo. Man, this one's difficult. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and put her in very strong because she's a yokai, she's 500 years old, and she hung out with the Raiden Shogun. Yeah, but other than that, I can't really think of any reason she would be this high. Maybe I'll put her in above average, actually. Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to come back to her. Xingqiu, I'm gonna put him in above average as well. See, now this does, like, I feel like there's no way Yamiko is as strong as Xingqiu, right? So we'll put her back in very strong. Yeah, Xingqiu is trained in a long-forgotten martial arts style. He is a swordsman. He's a human with combat proficiency. That's pretty much what this tier is about. Furina. Now, do keep in mind that Furina is not an Archon anymore. Well, she never was an Archon, technically. She is a performer, she is a dancer, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna put her in actually weak. If you have watched my Furina summons video and my preparing for Furina video, you will know I absolutely adore this character. I'm being safe because she's a new character that a lot of people love. I don't want to get backlash for this. Not that many people are even gonna watch this video, but but I love her to death. Quite literally, I love her. But she got her vision like 2 days ago, right? She didn't have any elemental power before that. She was not an Archon. She currently isn't an Archon. And she only knows how to cook macaroni. Like, you can't expect that much from her. I think she's actually weak. In my heart, she's S+ tier. But, and also in-game as a unit, she's S+ tier. But as a character, there's no reason for her to be all that strong, I think. Hu Tao is interesting. She's a director of the Wangsheng Funeral Parlor, and she has some sort of ability to guide the dead to the land beyond the living, but I don't think we've explicitly ever been told that that enhances her combat abilities in any way. So I'm going to put her in just a guy. Again, ironic, she's a very strong DPS, but I don't think we've ever really been shown that she's all that strong. Even in her demo, she just beats up some Fatui. So yeah, I'm going to put her there. Feels kind of weird, because again, she does have this like supernatural ability with the dead and death that makes me think like she should be higher, but I can't actually recall any in-game material that tells us that she's particularly strong, you know? Next we have Xinyan. She'll go in actually weak. She's a rock star, basically. I don't think there's any reason she would be good at combat. But I do love Xinyan. Kuki Shinobu, I think it's pretty fair to say she's above average. Her clothing like gives me the vibe of like someone who's into combat. She's got the like leg armor, the shoulder pad thing, the pauldron. I guess technically she's like a lawyer by trade, so I don't know. Maybe she would be just a guy. Ooh, I'm realizing I don't know a huge amount about Kuki Shinobu, and that's ironic because she's on my main team. I'm gonna put her in just a guy. I can't really recall any material, again, where she's described as being particularly strong or trained. She's mainly depicted as being in charge of like the more boring aspects of leadership, like planning and logistics and stuff. Yao Yao, she is technically training under Madame Ping. She's just a kid, and if you look at her normal attack animations, she clearly just started training like a few months ago because she doesn't seem very proficient. Zhongli, Morax, Deus Ori, Rex Lapis. What are his other names? Whatever. Obviously he's going in godly. My personal opinion, in addition to my theory, my whole thing that I said before about him being like the god of war, not actually the god of war, because the Pyro Archon is the god of war, but like he was known as like the god of war because of how ruthless he was during the Archon War. In addition to that, I have some personal headcanons, some personal theories about him in terms of him being like he's one of the Descenders and stuff like that, which is beyond the scope of this video, but I do believe that he is the most powerful Archon of the 7. He is also the oldest. If Venti's words about Archons deriving strength from being worshipped is true, I would say that Zhongli rivals Venti in terms of how worshipped he is, but otherwise, yeah, he's an Archon. He's going in godly. Next we have Barbara. She's going in actually weak. She's a nurse, she's a pop star, she's a nun. None of those spell out good at fighting. Diluc is going in above average. He survived having a delusion for like years. He trounced his way around Snezhnaya, pissing enough Snezhnayans off to the point where he's like permanently banned from the country. And he like went against the Fatui. Yeah, of course this guy is like stronger than average. Shen He. I'm gonna put Shen He in very strong. I never get over just how fucking impressive what she does is in that Liwa interlude quest when she freezes an entire tsunami. Like, this is a regular human woman we're talking about. Same with Ningguang. I feel like both of them are crazy strong and depicted as being crazy strong despite just being regular humans. Yeah, I think it's very fair to say that she's sort of beyond the human capabilities of strength. She is just a human, but like she has somehow surpassed that. Shangling, actually weak. There's no reason for her to be strong. She's a cook. Kazuha, above average. He's a Ronin. He's a, wandering samurai. He has samurai training. He comes from a family of sword forgers who have their own sword art. I don't think anyone would disagree with this. And he's my favorite character in the game, so not to be biased. And then Lisa. I'm gonna put Lisa in. Am I gonna put Lisa in just a guy? No, I'm putting her in actually weak. There's no real reason she would be good at combat. She is very smart. We know that. She went to the academia. She's also lazy, so I don't think she would even want to do combat. And on top of that, she's a librarian. Yeah, I don't think she'd be good at combat. I think this is a fair place for her. Okay, I'm gonna go back up here and I'm just gonna look at Traveler and I'm gonna look at Wanderer and Miko, I guess. No, I think Miko is gonna stay there. I think Traveler is gonna stay here. We'll put him at the front of this tier. Not because he's strongest, just because he's the main character. As for Scaramouche, I'm probably gonna drop him down to very strong. The more that I think about it, the more I think that he probably doesn't fit under this category anymore. But then again, this character, the Raiden Shogun that you play as, is just the puppet, right? And theoretically, him and her should be the same strength, because they are the same creation, basically. But, I mean, when I ranked Raiden here, I was ranking the Archon, not the puppet, so I don't really know if this counts. Okay, how about this? I'm going to put him here at the end of Godly, but he probably floats between these two, realistically. He's probably somewhere in the middle, or just in one of these, and I can't make up my mind. But yeah, I think that's going to be about it. I think this is a pretty solid list. We've got Niviette as our most powerful character in the game. So yeah, that was my video. That was my ranking. This was really fun. I kind of want to do more tier lists for Genshin and for other stuff. Maybe I'll do like some sillier ones next. This one ended up being pretty serious because I like talking about lore. I didn't get to like make jokes or anything about any of these characters, but anyway, yeah, this was really fun. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoy the content that I'm putting out recently, feel free to leave a like and even a subscribe if you're real cool and real chill. As I said before, just getting started on YouTube, so I appreciate everything and anything, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you want more of this. Let me know if you want more Genshin content. Let me know if you like the idea of an Outer Wilds playthrough, if you're into Let's Play stuff. I hear it's like one of the best games ever made, and I still haven't played it. I got other Genshin videos up on the channel. Go ahead and watch those if you're hankering for more content. They're pretty fun, especially that Farina Summons video. But anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Later.